Good evening, my viewers. Tonight I'm doing one of my special shows that I do around election time called Meet the Candidates. And tonight I'm very honored to have Alison Boak with me, who's running for the state senate in New York, the 40th district.
That's right.
How are you, Alison?
I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for having me on.
It's an honor. What made you decide to get into politics? I think this is your first run at politics.
Actually, it's not my first run.
No? Okay.
I have served as a town board member in my hometown of Pound Ridge, and I was inspired to get involved in politics when the golf course across the street from my house had contaminated the wells of several of my neighbors.
Wow.
And I organized and worked with my neighbors to make sure that the golf course strengthened the monitoring program, because what had happened is that there had been a spill and it had contaminated some of the wells, but they didn't tell the residents for about 7 months. So that was my first foray into local politics, and I served 4 years as a town councilwoman in Pound Ridge, where I worked really hard to keep taxes low, to protect the environment. I spearheaded a major revitalization effort in our business district, and I worked really hard to bring transparency to our local government. So this will actually be my second run for office.
Second run?
Yes.
Okay. And you served several years on the town board in Pound Ridge?
Yes, that's right.
How do you feel about women's issues? Do you feel there's enough women up in Albany?
Well, given the statistic that there's only 12 out of 63 women, I think we have a long way to go. I've been running an international nonprofit for the past 17 years that I actually started when I was in graduate school. The mission of the organization is to end child trafficking and child slavery, and one of the ways we do that is by empowering young women, keeping girls in school, working against domestic violence. So I'm a big supporter of women's issues. And when I go to the Senate, I will be a strong supporter of the Reproductive Health Act, so that we can be sure that we have 21st century health care for women in the state of New York. People may think we do, but actually Roe v. Wade is not codified in the state of New York.
Wow.
And our protections could be swept away. So that's something I would really be an outspoken advocate for.
How do you feel about equal pay for women on an equal job? Do you feel that's right now in America, or that has to be corrected? I'm reading some reports that a woman executive is paid like 20% less than her male counterpart.
Yeah, that's right. We need to correct that inequity, and we need to take steps, and I would fight for that as a state senator, to even improve upon our policies for women in the workplace. Absolutely.
There's been a big thing up in Albany on ethics and ethics reform. How do you feel about that, Ms.
Well,
Boak?
that's one of the reasons I'm inspired to run for state senate. I'm really fed up with the corruption in Albany. I'm fed up with politicians that are more interested in serving themselves than serving the people of the 40th district. And I'm the only candidate in this race that actually has a track record of fighting corruption. And I'm the only candidate in this race that...
How did you fight corruption? Give us an example.
Sure, absolutely. So in my work against human trafficking happens in many countries where you have corrupt governments, you have organized crime, you have gangs. So I have to work...
You've traveled all over the world.
Absolutely, yes. I've worked in
and
more
you've
than
seen this.
More than
I've
22
seen a lot
countries.
of this because I served in Vietnam and Southeast Asia, and they sell younger girls for money.
Girls and boys.
And boys.
For both labor and sex trafficking.
Wow.
And
are America's laws strong enough in this area right now?
Well, our federal law is quite strong, and we're a leader internationally. Many laws are based on our Federal Trafficking Victims Protection Act. However, there are some things we can do in New York State to strengthen our anti-trafficking efforts. So, for example, at the federal level, you don't need to show force, fraud, or coercion when it comes to human trafficking. But unfortunately, that's still in the law at the state level, and that's something I would work hard to correct.
Now, Ms. Boak, you're in a primary with a fellow who's run 3 or 4 times before. How do you differentiate yourself from your Democratic opponent? And when is the primary so people will know when to vote for you?
Right, so I hope everyone who's a Democrat, registered Democrat, knows the primary is September 13th. And I have won the 3-county convention on April 30th, where all the towns from Dutchess, Putnam, and Westchester County got together to select a candidate. And I beat Andy Falk by more than 22 points in that convention. I've also garnered the support of 11 of the 15 towns in the district. And so far, you know, in terms of resources, I have outraised Andy Falk by more than 16-1. So
wow.
I've been really putting together the kind of field operation, the kind of resources, and the kind of campaign necessary to take on Terrence Murphy in the fall.
How do you differentiate yourself from the incumbent who's a state senator right now, if you should win the primary?
Well, I think we have different views on many issues, one of them being ethics. I'm the only candidate in this race who has signed the Good Conscience Pledge. So what the Good Conscience Pledge is it's a pledge by a number of organizations, good government organizations, that says, you know, if I'm elected to the state Senate, I will limit my outside income, I will work to close the loopholes, I will make sure there's transparency in member items that members give out to their constituencies. I'm the only candidate who has signed that and who has pledged that. Other differences on issues, environmental advocates, you can be sure that I will not get a 53% grade from environmental advocates for my environmental record. We differ in that I am against the pipeline. I'm very much for shifting our energy policy to renewable energies, looking at how we can use wind and solar and geothermal to protect our planet. We differ in women's issues. I've been a women's advocate my entire life, and I'm very pro-choice, and my opponent is not. We also differ on issues related to gun safety. So I'm in support of keeping the SAFE Act and protecting our communities, and my opponent actually says that he will work vigorously to repeal that. So there's a real choice in this election on how the future of this district is going to roll out. You know, there's a choice between someone who wants to work together, work across the aisle. I've built my career on a track record of bringing people together to solve problems, being productive, versus a candidate, you know, who's really aligned himself with Trump and Trump's policies of basically anti-everyone. So I think voters have a real choice in this election.
I hear many of the Republican leaders are disavowing themselves of Mr. Trump. I understand the president and the ex-president and his father both didn't attend the Republican convention, and I've never heard of that happening before.
Well, it's no surprise if you have candidates like my opponent and Trump who are anti-women, you know, anti-immigrant. It's no surprise that people can't support this. I mean, we have a consensus in the international community on women's rights, and their rhetoric just goes against all the progress we've made for decades.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. When Mr. Trump, who's the standard bearer of the Republican Party, came out with the statement that Mr. McCain was not a hero, he lost my vote. I have a policy, although I'm registered in the opposite party from you, anybody but Trump. How's that? Maybe we should start a new party up, anybody but Trump. How could a man who never served in the military, he was boogalooing at Club 54 and got 5 deferments, put down a Mr. McCain who was a true hero? He was like me. He was in Vietnam. He had his bones broken, and he was a prisoner of war. And I am so shocked at some veterans saying, I'm for Trump, he's for the people. You know?
It's really disgraceful.
And something else, community service. You've done a lot of community service. His 2 lovely sons, and does he have 2 daughters, 2 by 3 different wives? None of them ever served their country. and he's pro-veteran. And when they ask him for his tax records and his records of what he gave to charities, he doesn't seem to want to produce them. I think anybody who's going to represent all of the people should show us what tax deductions he's taken.
I can see we've hit a chord in you, George.
But we got to get back to you, Ms. Boak.
We have hit a chord in you, but I think that, you know, the 40th district is made up of very educated people.
Yes.
They are made up of hardworking people that are educated, that are working to send their kids to school and to college and to technical schools, and they are not going to be fooled by the rhetoric of Donald Trump and by the rhetoric of my opponent. I really don't think they will be.
How do you feel about government helping women who have preschool children and sending them to school and the government paying for it?
I think we need universal pre-K. When I was in graduate school getting my Master's of Public Health at Columbia University, I had a fellowship and I worked with the Head Start program. And you know, all the research shows that you're actually going to have better outcomes for children, and you will save money in the long term if you invest in pre-K education. So I would be a big proponent of ensuring that all children have access to universal pre-K.
We have an American flag here. How do you feel about America and the American flag, Ms. Boak?
Well, I served 2 years in the Peace Corps. I represented the United States abroad. In Latvia, which is a former Soviet country, at a time, a very sensitive time, when the Iron Curtain had just been pulled up. My grandfather is a World War II highly decorated vet in the Navy, where he served as a gunner. And I'm happy to serve my country.
Although you were in the Peace Corps, how do you feel about veterans who fought for this country? You just told me your father was a World War II vet.
My grandfather.
Grandfather.
I mean, I think we owe our veterans a huge debt, and we don't do nearly enough for our veterans. My brother-in-law is actually a psychologist at the Montrose VA hospital here in this district, where he coordinates the suicide prevention program there.
Wow.
And you know, the fact that we have every 65 minutes a veteran in this country committing suicide.
Isn't that sad?
We can't stand for that. We need to give our veterans the respect and the resources that they deserve. They served us, and now we need to serve them.
You think the government should do more in that area?
Absolutely.
That when they come home from war, they've been programmed to kill, to give them a better adjustment into private life. As you said, the suicide rate is tremendous for Afghanistan ref. I'm getting a little nervous here because I am a Vietnam veteran who was almost killed in action.
Well, thank
I'm
you.
a disabled Vietnam
Thank you, George,
veteran.
for your service. And
so,
I would do everything I can as a state senator to make sure that veterans have the resources they need to deal with coming home. It's one thing to send people off, but you also need to invest in how they reintegrate.
Readjustment,
That's right.
College.
Finding jobs, reconnecting, you know, making sure that that they have the supports that they need, both health-wise and also, you know, mental health services, the whole spectrum of services.
By the way, Ms. Boak, I thank the government, although they conscripted me into the service. I never would have killed a person in my life, and I still haven't killed a person. They almost killed me in the war.
Well, thank goodness they didn't.
But thank God for federal programs when you came out. I took advantage of the Disabled Vietnam Vets Bill. Got a 4-year degree from Pace University in marketing and business, and government programs mean a lot.
Yes.
And here's how I feel about America, and you probably feel the same way. A country is only as good as the poorest person that they take care of.
That's right.
How do you feel on that statement?
I agree 100%, and I really have dedicated my entire life to public service, from graduating from college to going in the Peace Corps, and then I got a Fulbright scholarship to work and set up youth health centers. From there, I founded an international nonprofit that's been working for 17 years to end child trafficking and child slavery. I've been involved in numerous community organizations in Pound Ridge, where I live, a Girl Scout leader. I served on the Bedford Central School Board.
And you have 4 lovely daughters.
I have 4 lovely daughters.
I like my viewers to get to know you as a person.
I'll give them a shout out. I have Elena, Lydia, Ellen, Alexandra.
How old are they?
So I have 21, 18.
No way.
21, 18, 14.
You're not much above 21 yourself.
I know. How can it be possible? I have a 21-year-old daughter when I'm only 22.
She's in her 3rd year of college or something?
Yes, she's about to start her senior year at Holy Cross.
I bet you're very proud of her.
I'm very proud. She's studying
And
Russian and economics. And very proud of my daughters, absolutely.
Now, you may have a tough job because you're running in a so-called Republican conservative district. How do you think you can overcome that? Will that be difficult?
Well, I'm no stranger to these types of districts. First of all, I'm from upstate New York.
So where upstate?
I was born in Utica and raised in Oswego.
Wow.
So I grew up in a very Republican area, and I have many family members that are Republicans and friends that are Republican. And don't forget, I'm from Pound Ridge, where when I was on the town board, we, for the first time in the history of Pound Ridge, had a Democratic majority on the town board since 1877 when the town was incorporated. So my experience is that you really just need to work for everybody. You need to work for all the people.
Both parties.
I don't care what party people are, and you need to learn to work with each other. And I don't really subscribe to all this business that's going on at the federal level. We need to respect one another, whatever our party affiliation. We need to work together. We need to be collaborative, and we need to focus on our problems at hand, not our differences.
Ms. Boak, you don't know this about me. I'm a community activist as well. I go to all my city council meetings. I go to school board meetings. And one message I try to give to both the Republicans and the Democrats, to work together, unlike Congress, unlike Mr. Ryan, who's got a bill in Congress to take $5 billion away from Afghanistan veterans. Can you believe that? And he's the leader of the Republican Party in Congress.
I mean, I think one of the reasons I was tapped to run for this seat is because I have a track record of working with people, regardless of party affiliation, to get things done.
What's best for Pound Ridge?
I have a job that I love. I love my anti-trafficking work. It's a passion of mine. I've been very successful, and I wouldn't give that up if I didn't feel like I really have the skill set to make a difference at the state level and try to bring people together to accomplish the things the people of New York State need us to accomplish.
What's 1 or 2 other goals you have as state senator, if you become state senator, that you want to do, and why you decided to run for state senate?
Well, one of my goals would really to make sure that ethics reform gets passed. I think it should be the very first bill, the very first vote that we take when we go back to the legislature in January. I think it's that important, and it could set a message for the rest of the session if that's the very first item that's passed. I would like to work on education. That's really important to me. I want to make sure that our schools have the resources that they need. I'm a huge proponent of SUNY and CUNY. I'm the first in my family to graduate from a 4-year college.
I am too.
You are too?
Yes.
Right.
And SUNY and CUNY, I graduated from Westchester Community College 2 years, and in 2 years Pace, and that's how I got my.
So I went my first year at SUNY Oswego, and then I graduated from SUNY Albany, and I currently teach at City College, where I'm a leader in residence.
Wow.
So I see firsthand how SUNY and CUNY are really ladders of opportunity for young people, and we need to keep them affordable, but we also need to make sure that their quality is top-notch and that kids that go there are getting the best education.
You know, to raise the middle class and the poorer people, I don't see anything wrong with a free college education to a state 2-year school. It teaches you a trade, it teaches you, it gets you up in the world.
Now, I've already been on the record as saying that I would work for free SUNY CUNY tuition. I think it's an investment in our citizens, it's an investment in our economy, it's an investment in our future, and one that I think would pay back great dividends.
Now, you told us before you're fiscally conservative, although you're a Democrat. Can you give me examples on your Pound Ridge board, how you've kept taxes down.
Yes, when I served on the Pound Ridge Town Board, we never approved a tax increase over 3%.
Really?
And
that's very good.
Yes, but I believe that there's so much waste in government that we can look for efficiencies, we can look for creative ways to do things less expensively. And that's the attitude that I would take to Albany. There's things I want to get done, but it doesn't mean I just want to raise taxes. We need to look at where we can cut, where we can do things more efficiently and better. That would be the approach that I would take.
Again, I agree with you. Again, another role I have in my community, I've headed up an organization called People for 0% Tax Increases, and I'm the tax watchdog of Northern Westchester Putnam.
So I'm here with the expert.
25 years, yes.
I am here with the expert.
With school board budgets, especially some school board. I believe in quality education, but at a reasonable cost. There's got to be a balance between the two of them. But another reason or two why you're running for state senate in New York.
Sure. Another big reason that I'm running is that I want to turn the Senate majority Democrat. I think that a lot of things that are not getting done can be accomplished without the Senate roadblock. So, for example, I mentioned earlier the fact that Roe v. Wade is not codified in New York State. We women in New York State deserve 21st century health care.
Wow.
And we deserve a government that will protect our rights under Roe v. Wade and codify them into the state constitution so that no matter what political party is in power, these rights cannot be eroded in New York State. So that's something that's very important to me. I want to work and make sure that women have access to menopausal care, to contraception, to all forms of 21st century health care. The environment is something that's really important to me. Look at this barge issue that we have going on right now.
I'm very against that, the
River.
Commercial barges.
There's so many reasons why that should not be happening, and I'm strongly against that.
By the way, a leader in the forefront of that is Linda Puglisi, the town supervisor of Cortland.
That's right. Her town is right, on the river.
And she's fought at the VA, where I think you have somebody who does something there to keep the VA open in Cortland Manor. So you're definitely in favor of keeping the VA open in Westchester County.
That's right. I am in favor of that. Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. And we need to make sure that this barge proposal from the Coast Guard does not go forward. The risks of petroleum spills are huge.
And advertising, commercial advertising on the beautiful Hudson River, come on.
The light and noise pollution that would be generated
and how
from
big
that.
Are these barges? We know what happened at the Tappan Zee Bridge with
That's right.
a couple of boats that have
it's
smashed
dangerous.
into. Yes.
And the wildlife, so many groups like Riverkeeper and others have been making such progress in restoring the Hudson River from decades of abuse from corporations and private interests, and with the anchors that will drag on the bottom and disrupt the...
I wonder where they ever got a harebrained idea like this for, to put
well,
barges
I think it's
with
part of a
commercial
larger
sign.
redevelopment plan, and we need to stop it.
Other areas, how are you on wildlife and the environment?
I have a strong record on the environment. I have been endorsed previously by the New York League of Conservation Voters. I helped in the town of Pound Ridge get funding from the Brownfields program, where they come in and assess brownfield sites. Brownfield sites are sites where there's such contamination that nobody really wants to touch the property in terms of buying it because they don't know what they're going to uncover. I've supported programs like Energize Pound Ridge and programs that give businesses small loans to weatherize and to make their businesses more energy efficient.
How do you feel about solar and green power?
I support the targets
fuel.
that have been put in place, where we need to reach 40% of renewable energies by 2030. In fact, I think I would take it even further, that we need to be working on these action plans, that we we need to have the concerted effort, the concerted political will to make this happen, and I think we do. I think if we all come together that we will achieve those goals and continue to make New York State a leader in energy.
And senior citizens, what is your stance on seniors?
My very first job was actually working in a senior center in my hometown.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
I was a waitress.
Oh.
And I think our seniors, they need the resources to be able to stay in their homes in communities where real estate prices are rising and they can't afford to keep their homes. We need to create other affordable housing options for our seniors. We also, for our seniors, we need to make sure that they have the community centers and the supports that they need in the community. Healthcare, I think, is important to our seniors.
How are you on the youth of America, the preschoolers, the young children, the soccer moms, and the cheerleaders of America?
Well, I've pretty much spent my
Have
entire
you been a soccer mom?
My husband's a soccer dad.
Oh, that's nice. Gee.
Yes, I'm more the softball mom, but I have pretty much spent my entire adult life working on behalf of vulnerable youth, working on behalf
beautiful.
of youth who
Very worthy cause.
Who are isolated, such as LGBT youth, working on youth who maybe aren't in school, are homeless, are drug addicted, have been victims of child abuse.
Drug addiction's a big thing. Your opponent seems to be going around the county with getting people to turn in their prescription drugs. You do a lot more than that from the
Well,
way
I've
you
been
sound.
working to fight drug abuse really since in my 20s. I mean, when I was setting up these youth health centers, that was a big part of what we were addressing. And I'm so happy to see the state has finally put some significant resources and developed a plan to deal with heroin and other opioids, but it took way too long.
Ms. Boak, there's only about a minute left to the show, so I'd like you just to say something in closing and how people can contact you if they want to support you or join your campaign or vote for you.
Great. So people can contact me at my website, which is Boak, B-O-A-K, the number 4, NY.com. My campaign office is in Mount Kisco, 105 Smith Ave. There's people there from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. every day. You're welcome to come in and join our campaign. On my website, you can read about my bio and my platform. And I'm really ready to roll up my sleeves.
What is your website and what's your phone number where people can reach you?
My website, again, is Boak for NY, and my cell phone is 917-757-4180.
You are accessible.
And I'm very accessible. Please reach out, and I am ready to take on the corruption in Albany and get to work on issues that the public cares about.
Miss Allie Boak, I thank you very much for being a great guest on the George Ondek Show.
Thank you.
And in fairness, I always put out to any opponents, if they want to come on the show, that's perfectly okay, because I like to present all sides of you, and I hope my viewers got to know you better tonight.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good luck on the primary. When is that
Thank
again?
you. The primary is September 13th for you registered Democrats. Please get out and vote.
Thanks again, my viewers.